our individual candidate questions, where we've prepared questions specific to your experiences and platform. You'll have 60 seconds to answer these questions. Let's get started with Ms. Babb Tomlinson. This is going to be about reproductive rights.
Yay!
Perfect. Ms. Babb Tomlinson, as a leader at Planned Parenthood, your commitment to reproductive rights is clear. However, if elected to a Congress that is hostile to these rights, how specifically will you move beyond rhetoric to prevent a national abortion ban? Will you commit to voting against any federal budget that includes provisions restricting abortion access or gender-affirming care, even if it risks a government shutdown?
Okay, so I'm going to have a technical question because, and I don't want this to go towards my time, because technically the Hyde Amendment is always in there. And so, like, the Hyde Amendment prevents federal dollars from being used in abortions. And so, like, that's different than what we're talking about. So, yes, I would make sure that Planned Parenthood is fully funded, full stop. Yes, I would make sure that transgender folks have the rights and privileges they need to get the medication that's medically relevant to them. Now, I work in the state of Nevada with a lot of libertarians and a lot of Republicans. Guess what? They have reproductive parts too. And so we have to be able to work across the aisle with all kinds of folks to get this done. And that's what I've done. I've actually got millions of dollars out of the state of Nevada with a Republican governor by making some concessions to call it Planned Parenthood the prohibited entity under H.R. 1 and not Planned Parenthood. So you're looking at someone that knows how to be strategic, creative, and will do everything possible to make sure that people have their reproductive freedom and rights protected. I also think our ways in doing that is making sure we support Medicare for all. Dr. Pan doesn't support Medicare for all. He takes money from insurance, so that's what we're up against.
Thank you very much. Dr. Pan, if you would like to rebuke that, you have 30 seconds.
So I appreciate that my good friend here has decided to actually throw accusations that are not supported by facts. My financial report is public like every other candidate's. So I urge you to please take a look at that and see who is supporting me. And I would just say is that also I've been very clear. I support health care as a right. I support universal health coverage. In fact, I've gotten more people health care coverage than anyone else here on this stage, and I stand by that record. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I wanted to ask a quick clarifying question to Ms. Babb Tomlinson. So it's clear from your record that you're able to work across the aisle, but to specify on the question, if it risks a government shutdown, would you still pursue abortion access and gender-affirming care?
Yes, I think we have to be judicious about our rights. And quite frankly, when the Democrats didn't shut down the government when the big ugly bill went into effect was a mistake. And that's why over 20,000 patients lost access to care. Americans can't afford to lose anymore.
Thank you very much. Dr. Pan.
Yes.
After yet another tragic mass shooting that occurred in Louisiana, you accurately asserted on Blue Sky that guns are the leading cause of death of children in the United States. As a doctor and pediatrician, how would you propose we prevent gun violence in the United States?
Well, there's a lot of things we need to do to prevent gun violence. In fact, in the California state legislature, I voted for many bills to be sure we limit access to guns while still protecting people's Second Amendment rights. Unfortunately, we're bumping up against the federal judiciary, who is, unfortunately, I think, taking a erroneous view of the Second Amendment, but we're going to continue to fight for that. So that includes things like being sure people have universal registration of guns, banning assault weapons, right? We need to be sure that people are held accountable for safe gun storage. We need to be sure that, for example, here in the state of California, we have a list of people who should not be holding guns, and we have red flag laws. In fact, I actually authored a bill that was supported by both the Brady campaign and the NRA about being sure we get guns out of the hands of people who shouldn't have them. Okay, so I can work across both sides to make things like that happen too. And so we need to end the scourge of gun violence. So thank you.
Mr. Vandenberg.
Hello.
Worldwide electricity from clean, renewable sources is surpassing fossil fuels as other countries are racing to build more solar and wind capacity. Last year, more than a third of the world's electricity came from renewables for the first time, and it's rapidly increasing. The world is surpassing the US in both technological advancement and development. Our failure to embrace renewable technologies is exacerbating the affordability crisis by raising the price of utilities and gas, along with eliminating the EV tax credit. Mr. Vandenberg, how do you propose we keep America competitive in the race for reaching 100% renewable energy?
Boy, how do I talk about industrial policy without boring everybody to death? Okay, very simply, I believe in a green new grid because solar power is now the cheapest form of energy in human history. It's cheaper than nuclear, it's cheaper than oil, it's cheaper than wind, it's cheaper than everything else, and it's getting cheaper all the time, largely because the Chinese are building so much of it. The United States of America is going backwards. We are hanging on to antiquated fossil fuel infrastructure because the Republican Party thinks it's sissy or wimpy to install renewables. The simple fact of the matter is it will be completely uncompetitive to build anything in the United States of America if we miss this boat. It's like the deindustrialization, the final deindustrialization of the whole country. Bringing your power bills down, building an America where people can have air conditioning in the increasingly bad heat waves caused by climate change, ensuring that people can actually afford the bills that they get. That has to come from the federal government investing credibly in green energy everywhere to a degree we haven't seen in decades.
Thank you very much. Mayor Guerrero, you've discussed increasing the supply of affordable housing. As the federal government moves to place limits on housing assistance and eliminate community development block grants, our local housing crisis is only accelerating. Do you support the creation of a federal social housing program where the government directly funds and builds permanent mixed-income housing?
I do support that. In West Sacramento, we have built the most affordable housing, and it is blended in throughout the city. It is blended in also because we are meeting our regional housing needs assessment. We do have to make sure, and I've worked competitively with our neighborhood housing, our legal neighborhood housing folks, to take a look at our entire city, to integrate affordable housing throughout our city. And we've accomplished that goal. We are making every developer who comes in to have 10% inclusionary housing. And so from that, we've been able to draw down additional funding. As being a pro-housing designated, we lower our impact fees so that that housing can be built at a lower cost. And as a result of that, we've been able to get more funding from the federal and local sources. We do need to make sure we restore the community development block grant, make sure we have project choice housing vouchers, more of those, and rental subsidies in order to achieve further goals.
Thank you very much. And District Attorney Ho, you have mentioned that you want to create an enforceable code of ethics for the Supreme Court. What does that look like? And do you support expanding the Supreme Court and/or instituting term limits on Supreme Court justices? Why or why not?
What we are seeing in this country is that our courts and our judges are aiding and abetting a tyrant in the White House, pure and simple. And as somebody who has enforced the law, somebody who knows the law, I am disgusted by what is happening in our judiciary. So how do we fix it? How do we deal it? I'll tell you how. First of all, there's been ideas on expanding the courts, but if we do it now, when we take back control of the government, what will happen is when the Republicans get back in control, they'll expand the courts again. Same thing with term limits. Once we set term limits, what will happen then is, what happens if the term limit happens to end when there's a Republican there in Congress? They'll go ahead and have the chance to go ahead and put their cronies in there. So we need an enforceable rule of conduct. There is no enforceable rule of conduct right now for the Supreme Court. If we did it, we'd be able to impeach Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito for taking money from MAGA donors. And that's what we do when we hold an oversight committee hearing in the judiciary to shed a light on it and hold them accountable. And I will do that because I know how.
Thank you very much.